Welcome everyone to the Edinburgh International Conference Centre, and I think it's our fourth or fifth EICC Live of the year. My name is Rob Turnbull. I am the Sustainability Manager here at the EICC. And you might wonder why the Sustainability Manager is standing up and doing this. And that's because the EICC Live sits within our wider sustainability programme. And that's to offer a free public talk designed to bring people together, share knowledge and spark meaningful conversations. I actually help organise these with the wonderful Jennifer Henry, who unfortunately can't be here tonight, but she's very much shall we say, the creative force behind this. But this reflects our overall vision to create an environment that inspires ideas that change the world. So this year we've had some remarkable talks. We've had such as demystifying pensions, to the design of inclusive urban environments. And they're actually all available on YouTube. So if you'd like to go and watch any of the previous EICC Lives, just search for EICC venue. Tonight we're joined by the very brilliant Joshua, who's the Director of Tourism, Travel and Festivals at the Edinburgh Futures Institute at the University of Edinburgh. Joshua has delivered AI and tourism workshops across Europe, America and Asia, so very much knows what he's talking about. So Josh is going to do a nice talk about AI first and tourism and how they're interlinked. Following that, we're then going to have a bit of a panel discussion. We have joined by some really interesting experts here, which I think will have some interesting takes on AI and tourism. So we have Nick Finnegan, who's the former Executive Manager of Edinburgh Castle. We have Professor Jane Ali Knight, who's a Professor in Festival and Event Management in Edinburgh University. And we have Callum McPherson, so the founder of CEO of, is it Obliv? Obliv, there we go. And Jessica Millen, who's the Chief Innovation and Design Officer at Create Future. So look forward to that. You will be able to put your questions to them, so just as with the rest. But without further ado, please join me in welcoming Joshua to the stage.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks so much for coming. I couldn't help but think, if we don't do better than demystifying pensions, we're not doing this right. But we'll see how it goes. So yes, I'm Joshua Ryan-Saha. I'm the Director of Tourism, Travel and Festivals at Edinburgh Futures Institute. First of all, big thank you to EICC for inviting us today to talk about AI in tourism. I hope that we can keep you entertained. I think these are two very hot topics in Edinburgh. They're two things that Edinburgh, I would say, are very, very good at. So hopefully the combination will keep us all going into the evening. A couple of warnings. The first one is, this is not like a TED Talk. TED Talks usually go quite nicely, they're quite flowing, there's one central argument. This won't have any of that. It will be fast-paced. I realize that people's attention spans are roughly about 8 seconds, so that is the pace that I will be putting slides in front of you. It is going to be a fast-paced thing. You have to keep up. That's the first warning. Second is that it's going to be very interactive. I feel like it's an evening event. It'd be really good to get people's thoughts as we go. I'm going to ask questions of you, the audience. And I will pick on people if I don't get a good enough response. I've been told also that if you wait 5 seconds of really awkward silence, then someone will come in. So that's what I'm going to do. The third thing is this is my second ever public event. Lots of events with business. My first public event was when I lived in Bosnia, and it was the British Embassy pantomime. And I played the hen that laid the golden eggs. What was most surprising when writing this presentation was how much content I could retain, actually. It was, so hopefully you'll see a little bit of that. Right, so first of all, I'm just going to a little bit more about what I do. What we're trying to do at the Edinburgh Futures Institute is to make Scotland the place to do innovation in travel technology, tourism technology. We set up something called Traveltech for Scotland about 5 years ago. It was roughly about 200 Traveltech businesses in Scotland at the time. I think it probably fluctuates a little bit. We've got a lot in the UK who are part of a network as well. We have a monthly meetup. But our ambition is to be the place to come to do Traveltech innovation. So with AI, you can see how that becomes very important. Now, just to get started, I'd like for you to just indulge me a tiny bit, as I'm going to talk a little bit about why I love tourism. And it starts off, and any of you who've seen me speak before will know what's coming, is this is where I'm from. So does anyone recognize this beautiful town? This is Grimsby. This is the wonderful town of Grimsby. So I was born in Grimsby a few years ago, and the thing I always say about Grimsby is you're very likely to work in tourism because everywhere you go after that is like a destination. You know, it doesn't matter. It could be in Scunthorpe, just down the road, absolutely beautiful. And I say that as a joke, and then actually I was in Arizona and was at a table saying this exact joke, and 2 other people on the table of this tourism conference were also from Grimsby. So it's actually the truth. But it's the truth in more reasons. You know, Grimsby was a lovely place to grow up. I joke a little bit about it, and I know it's gone on YouTube, and I don't want any of my Grimbarian brethren to come back at me. But genuinely, I remember the first ever trip away, and it was to London. My dad took me down to London, and we stayed in a hotel that I thought was absolutely incredible, and in hindsight was really not. But it was my first experience in a hotel, and I can remember walking all the way around London. I remember absolutely every couple of hours of that experience. It was amazing. And I think it was that was actually the experience that I remember, and that's why I'm in tourism now. I remember opposite the hotel I stayed in, there was this building, and I was like blown away by this building. And I was thinking, you know, wow, they build buildings in this glass, and it's all, you know. And I looked it up the other day, and this is the building. And I was like, oh my God, is that what I was so blown away by? It's, you know, it was a few years back, but, you know, I think it's that feeling of that awe, you know, being younger, but actually I think means tourism is really, really important. And so the next point is this. When I came to Edinburgh for the first time was 2008, I think, 2009, and I was completely blown away. And by that point, I traveled a bit in Europe, and, you know, you can't help it. If you're not from Edinburgh and you come through on the train and you get off, it's just unbelievable. And I think sometimes we forget about that here. We're brilliant at hosting people. We have the world's best events, but we're also just an unbelievable place to visit, and I think it's a real privilege to work in tourism industry. That's not to wipe away the problems, but what an amazing place to live, what an amazing place to visit, and what an amazing place and industry to work in. So that's my story. That's why I work in tourism, because I think it's amazing. So what are we going to cover? Very quickly, I'm going to give you a bit of a base in terms of where AI is now. Then I'm going to get into a bit of the hype around AI and tourism. What's the business talking about? What are the exciting things? Then a little bit about the hope. You know, what do we actually want for our industry from AI? And then maybe where the future might be going. So first of all, let's get you involved. How many of you have tried ChatGPT? Wow, there's a few of you who haven't, which is good. In the past, you know, obviously that number is creeping up. Now, how many of you know of or have tried Claude by Anthropic? That's a really high number. That's good. That's one I tend to use mostly. Anyone used Mistral? Bonsoir, friends. That's great. The French version, the European powerhouse of AI. Fantastic. It's good to see. Yes, yeah, exactly. Any of you tried Perplexity? So this is an AI search engine. Google Gemini does a lot of this functionality, but a lot of you are using that now. So even 6 months ago, in an audience roughly this size, people were ChatGPT, a few were Claude, no one else was in the other two. So we're seeing adoption grow across multiple tools. Now, how many of you have created an AI video? Yeah, quite a lot of you. Yeah, I've tried it. It's amazing now. It's a really incredible thing. Lots of issues there as well, but it's good to see. What about an AI podcast? Right now, I don't think we've got any roving mics, but if you don't mind maybe shouting, did you make an AI podcast? Could you mind sharing what your podcast was about?
It was a PDF document from work that was very long and complicated, so
Yeah. Make something boring accessible. Yeah, that's AI's #1 functionality, I would say. So yeah, there's a tool called Google LM Notebook. There's also 11 Labs, but this is something you can do now. But these are commonly achievable things. And actually, that's a really nice way, I think, of getting into complicated documents, creating a little podcast about it. Now, who pays personally for an AI tool or piece of software? Just whatever you do after this session, don't tell my wife about how much I'm spending on the multiple tools. It's actually a major problem for me at the moment. But anyway, we'll move on. Right, so what can it do? Well, we know that it can create text. We know it creates images and video. It creates code, analysis. It's a huge area now. Audio, music. But the thing I'm interested in is often we don't use some of the functionality, and one of the major bits of functionality is its ability to interpret information as well. And so to give you a bit of flavor to that, my favorite newsletter on AI is probably by a gentleman called Ethan Mollick, One Useful Thing. And this is him taking a photo of where he was and said, do you know where I am? So on the left-hand side, takes a photo of the floor and is able to determine you're on a plane, which I don't think I could. Maybe I would, but it could be anywhere from that left-hand side photo. And then raises the camera a little bit, takes a picture of a control panel, and they know exactly which plane you're on. And I've done this as I walk around different places, sometimes just a bit of architecture, which is not discernibly London or discernibly Grimsby or wherever. And it is very good at identifying places, either specific places or just generally where you're at. So interpreting images is important, and it's also, you can see from a tourism perspective, quite a valuable thing. Now, last year, the big change was this idea of multimodal AI, so how all of these different modes or ways of using AI come together. So text with image and video, and you see now if you create images and video, it has very good text included. How you can turn code into data analysis, into images, graphs, all this sort of stuff. It works very multimodally. And so the example I love to give, and if you've seen me speak before, you've heard about it, the poetry camera. So this is an interesting bit of equipment. If I were to take a photo of you right now using this poetry camera, what would come out is not a photo. Instead, it would be a bespoke bit of AI written poetry. I know what you're thinking. Incredibly useful, and one that we should all be buying. But it's a nice example of multimodal, right? It's like from image to poetry and is printed out. And then this year, the big change, and change is still yet to really hit the mark, is agentic AI in terms of consumer products, where basically you can give it a task and it will execute that task. And what's important there is a task that has multiple steps. So rather than you just having a dialogue, you'll have a dialogue, and then it will execute all of these steps as you go forward, which is a big change. And we're seeing it implemented in many interesting companies, one of them who's here today, and you'll get to hear from. And agentic AI has a huge number of possibilities, but the one I'm going to talk to you about is my fridge. Admittedly, this is not my fridge. Eggs in the fridge, absolutely. I don't even understand what some of this stuff is. But, well, those orange things. No, so a fridge. All right, take a photo of a fridge. What's in it? Tell me what I'm going to have for dinner tonight. Okay, that's just one transaction. But if you take a photo of a fridge and say, based on what I have in here, can you create a recipe for me, order what isn't in to arrive, and then give me the instructions to cook it. And then to execute all of that for you having food at your doorstep and the instructions to cook it. That's what I think of agentic AI. There's multiple steps from you seeing your fridge to cooking a meal, and it can execute at least a large number of them. It can't do your prep yet, of course. That's the robots. We'll come back to that. But that's what agentic AI is. That's the way I sort of conceptualize it in my mind. Oh, I don't want to say it. So one thing I was going to say is this is an interactive thing, and I really, I'm not going to dumb it down for you. I want to ask really difficult questions. I've kind of ruined it already. But the first question I have is this. Who's been on holiday this year? Anyone? Fantastic. All of you. Brilliant. This is where I get to pick on some of you as well. Did you use AI in the planning? Put your hand up if you did. Aha, okay. Now, you're right at the front, so here in my eye line. Where did you go on holiday? First question. And second of all, how did you use AI to plan it?
So I went to the Veneto region, and it was about what I should do each day in different places that would work for my mum and dad and myself and my husband.
And was it good?
Yeah.
And was it ChatGPT or a different tool?
We used ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And it just allowed us to get around like cities a bit faster, potentially.
Yeah, just hit all those key points. It's a pity it wasn't Grimsby, of course. You're all welcome. Did anyone use a tool that wasn't ChatGPT? Yeah? Copilot. So you went straight into Copilot. And where did you go on holiday? Australia and Malaysia. Wow, okay. Was the AI outputs useful for you?
Yes, for Australia, so
Yeah.
travelled quite a bit
Yeah.
during the Lions rugby. So
Aha.
rugby, some family visits.
Okay, yeah. We should probably talk more about that later. But let's get into it. So actually, 21, they said 21 to 40% of people used AI for the holidays in 2025 in the UK. Now, there was an article which we'll show you later which says it's a bit lower, but that's pretty sizable. In this room, it was probably a little bit more than that. A third actively don't want to use it. And I think that's interesting, like understanding why, what are reasons. Maybe in this presentation, we'll get through some of that. So what I'm going to do now is go through 7 areas very quickly that I think are contested areas for the future of AI in tourism. The areas people are using it, the areas that make tourism meaningful for us, and this is the bit where you need that warning, which is like, this is going to be fast. Mainly because we have much more talented people on the panel to come, and I want to hear their opinions. So, top 10 things to do, the itinerary building. If you ever to read the New York Times, basically, they're all on a jolly because the amount of articles about people who said, oh, I had to go to Sweden to test out ChatGPT, and if it gave me the right instructions, it was crazy. So I went over 3 years' worth of New York Times articles, and I think there's about 12, and on almost all of them, they traveled to do it. So something's going right there. It's really been an obsession of the news. And actually today, we had an article as well, which says that people in the Gen Z are very much more likely to use it. So this is now a major funnel for people to choose where they go and what they do. AI is an established route for tourism. And it isn't just ChatGPT. Because we run this network of Traveltech companies, the first thing that happened in 2023, when it first launched, everyone said to me, got the best idea in the world. I'd be like, tell me what that idea is. And it'd be like, I've got an AI that creates an itinerary. And everyone did it, and very few of those pure itinerary companies have survived. Here are 3 that are quite interesting. So Mindtrip does it because it creates multiple profiles, and you can have a trip that is not just yourself, it's your family, it's your friends, and you can share your preferences. Vacay does it for travel agents, so they can use AI to be much more effective. And then Layla is very nicely connected into some of the booking systems. But this was thousands of startups just a couple of years ago, and it has thinned out a little bit. And this is what it kind of looks like if you haven't used it. This is just Mindtrip that I've shown here. Going to Grimsby, of course. And it tells you, what you can do on day 1, what you can do on day 2. It gives you an itinerary and images and links and all this sort of stuff. So a lot of these tools are quite nice at packaging it up. And it's not just that, there's now tools that provide a different niche. So if you were in the US, you could use Road Tripper, and you could get a road trip planned out for you. Well, obviously makes sense in the US, which is such a huge scale. Hooli is a great Scottish company that does this for cycling, gives you bespoke cycling routes. And then Byway is a UK company, which is a great company. I certainly recommend checking it out, which is all about flight-free travel. It's really complicated flight-free travel because flights are kind of easy, right? You either change once or you just land at an airport, you get a transfer. If you get the train from here to Stockholm, which is difficult, it's long. You need to then stay in a hotel or you have to go on a sleeper. It's multi-steps. So they've done some amazing work with AI to create those connections. Really interesting company. But in truth, AI is a big part, but social search is still the major area of it. How many of you used short videos to decide what you're going to do? Maybe it's not a crowd, but I definitely do secretly at bedtime, just sort of scrolling. But that is the major source of inspiration for travel now. What's interesting about social search with AI is there's a bunch of companies now that basically say to influencers, we're going to help turn all your content into itineraries that people can buy and book with. So the next type of travel agent is the social media influencer. They're able to control that way of you booking travel now. But I think there's a problem with AI itineraries. So if you're in medicine, if you're a doctor, when you're using things like AI, what you're after is a narrow path. You're after a set of therapies or drugs or whatever it might be that potentially solve that very specific problem. And you're hopefully bringing in data about who you are, your medical history, the latest research in medicine, and you're after that one thing. In tourism and travel, it's not like that, especially in festivals, right, here. We often don't want to just find the one thing we like. We actually want our boundaries of risk appetite to be stretched. We want to have those moments that are serendipitous and surprising. And that's harder to do when you're using AI. So it's a challenging space. Like, you're not just predicting the 1 or 2 things. Don't get me wrong, sometimes that'll work. Getting the right restaurant for particular allergens, whatever it might be, is very important. But we actually want to spread it out. The other component is the IKEA effect, which is, if you're just given something, sometimes that's great. But other times, you want to put a bit of effort into it. You want to do your research. They might not have all the context. The AI might not have all the context about what you want, and you want to be able to put that in. You want to look at where you go. You want to see it. You want to pretend that you're there. And I think that ability to build it yourself or have choice, exert some agency, is a really important part of travel planning, because travel is so much about our own identity. It's so much about our emotional resonance with a place. So getting it done for you isn't what I think AI should be about. And this is some image, a non-AI illustrated image, that just sort of is a picture that we did from some futures workshops that talk all about how an AI trip within this bubble wasn't satisfactory for this gentleman who wanted to experience Rome like he used to. So we've got loads of sort of images like this. And actually, considering time, I should probably run over them a little bit faster. Now, we know there are problems at the moment in Europe, elsewhere, about tourists go home, places that are too busy. And it has been a challenge. And we're starting to see things like places being wiped off the map, walls literally being built in front of Mount Fuji in Japan. They're trying to actually hide things. And don't get me wrong, there are aspects of that business that impact us in Edinburgh as well, I'm sure. But what we're starting to see are destinations trying to put their hand on the scale. Because essentially, if you look at AI recommendations, and I expect you would have seen this when you tried it, sometimes it just comes out with the top 10 things to do that you would get in any article. How do you get that, the nuanced thing? And in Dublin, they were trying to create a tool that brought in events data, but also allowed them to sort of suggest or heavily weight things that they felt were a bit missing from those top 10 lists. Another problem is logistical data. So if you are trying to get to some of the islands, and I'm not saying the ferries aren't reliable, but there's sometimes challenges with the ferries. And, if you end up being there and you've not got the latest data in your AI system, then you're going to have a bad time. Because sometimes, I'm not saying anything bad about Greenock either. It's very much like my home. But spending a lot of time in Greenock rather than Mull is a different type of experience. So that data isn't currently in these AI systems, right? Now, there are things that are happening. So there's these new processes and protocols, this one thing called Model Context Protocol, which may be potentially a bit of an answer, where you can get trusted data plugged into these AI systems. It's not fully there yet, but this is a potential way forward. And so where do we want to go? Another illustration, again, not AI, shows a potential path forward, which is about that context. So if you're traveling with 3 members of your family and you're trying to choose what to do, then you want to negotiate, you want to build it. You want to also change what you do based on the weather. You might also want to change what you do based on your energy. And you could see a world where all this kind of comes together in terms of deciding what you do. So that was the first. The second here is a bit about designing amazing, creative experiences. So to get started, to 2023, destinations advertising what they do. And everyone had the great idea, how about if we designed it, we did images like it was Van Gogh. And every single destination did the same thing. So it was unique, but it wasn't, because everyone, we all think quite alike. And I always think about this when I think about AI images and tourism, especially Scotland, which is, why create them? We've got the best images of Scotland right now. The best images are the ones that we take, the ones that we can take photos of right now. So I'm quite skeptical about the use of AI images in tourism. But there are loads of interesting creative approaches. So I live next door to one of the lighthouses in the north of Edinburgh, Great Stevenson one. And there was a great tech tool that was created about the British Museum and all their catalogues, because most of the British Museum's catalogues you'll never see, they're just in warehouses. But you can there's lots of data about it. So they created a tool where you could start to search for what you wanted to see. So in this case, for me, it was lighthouses. And then you can start having a conversation directly with those objects based on the metadata that they have. So you can start to get, it actually speaks in the first person as that object, which is slightly curious. But it's a really lovely way of being able to talk to and involve yourself with the objects in it. I always think it wouldn't be amazing if you go through National Museum in Scotland and just take the path you want to take based on your own niche interests. And that's kind of available to us now. Taking that a step further, and if you've seen me talk before, I've mentioned this just because it's a great example, which is in Miami, there's a Dali museum, and you can pick up the Dali phone, which he designed, and have a conversation with an AI Dali based on all of the sort of history of Dali, which is kind of curious. I'm not sure whether Dali would have liked it or loathed it. I suspect he was quite, he was kind of quirky, wasn't he? But it's a really cool way of kind of bringing AI into the experience. AI is now incredibly good at not just creating video, but also these 3D models and these 3D worlds. You can actually put in pictures and it will actually fill in the gaps and create worlds. Very good for the gaming universe. So if you bring all that together, then you can see how you get to what happened in Paris a few years ago. And this was early AI, where you could have a live studio audience with a AI Van Gogh. So that's an interesting thing. Lots of potential challenges here as well. Is it authentic? Is it real? But an exciting and interesting way of using AI. And if you like Brian Eno, he's of course pushing the boundaries. He's got a generative film that no one will ever watch the same thing twice. Admittedly, it's quite avant-garde, but and I wouldn't recommend watching it twice. But every single version of it is completely different. It's all generative. So we're coming to this place of sort of generative art. And I always think about, when I think about that, I think about a student project that happened within the University of Edinburgh 5 years ago, where it was talking about the festivals. And what they could do was, if you have the data of every single ticket you went to for the Fringe and maybe the International, Science, Jazz, whatever it was, then all of that data exists. And if you could plug that into an AI system, then you could get a personalized poster or flyer based on your festival experience. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the way that souvenirs and AI are going to work together, and we'll have all these beautifully curated AI things. And then I realized when I went to the airport the other day, that's not the way that AI and souvenirs have worked. Basically, everyone is now creating a whole new realm of cheap AI-generated tat that is like a picture of the Highland cow stuck on a mug. It's like, oh, God damn it. But there are some creative ways that I think we could utilize this. So, and now a question for you. Do you think you can tell whether content is AI or not? And so put your hand up if you think you can tell. Every single time. Some confident folk. I thought I could, no, I can't anymore. It's got so good. Has anyone been fooled by AI content who's willing to share? It's a safe place. It's going on YouTube, but it's a safe place. We will hear it. Has anyone felt they've been fooled by an AI tool? I mean, I have. I've seen so many images now that have fooled me for thinking it was real. And AI is essentially, tourism is that quest for authenticity. And so there is inherent to this problem with AI in tourism. Because I mentioned serendipity and surprise, but we always want to see what's authentic. And so if AI and tourism come together, how do we do it in a way that it makes it authentic? The first thing I'm going to mention here is marketing copy. How many of you used it for marketing? And I'm presuming you all edit it, I hope so. Because what I like to call this is like the brown Play-Doh problem. If you've seen me talk, I've mentioned it before, which is when you get Play-Doh, if you've got children, it's bright colors, beautiful, you want to preserve it. It gets all mixed together and it's like brown sludge in the carpet and you hope that it's Play-Doh, right? So desperately hope. But for me, we're all independent organizations doing cool, interesting things, and then we stick it for AI, and it's very homogenizing. It kind of makes it all sound a bit the same. It comes with words like a rich tapestry and things like that, which, some of the words good, and I think it's very good at bringing up everyone to a decent level of writing. But this is a task that I like to do. So if I'm ever working with a group, this is the task. So if you're doing marketing copy, this is how I want you to write your marketing copy. And you can choose your own versions, by the way. Taxi driver at 2 a.m. in the morning, absolute world class. You get some unbelievable marketing copy from that. A lonely poet, actually the worst. Conspiracy theorist, surprisingly good for that sort of interesting thing. An exuberant child, or if it's the last time that product will ever be available. I recommend using this sort of thing to get people out of that mindset of just using what they see in AI. Giving them weird personas is a really nice way of throwing a bit of authenticity into it, potentially. Now, True or fake, fake or real? This is again from Ethan Mollick. You can see how just since 2022, AI images have got, using the same prompt, to something that actually looks very, very, very authentic. Admittedly, I haven't seen an otter on a plane, but you can see that development over time. But that fake or real in tourism has some real-world consequences. Fake reviews, that was a problem before. It's now a huge problem. There are factories generating and churning out fake reviews for hotels or whatever it might be. Fake hotels, fake Airbnbs, fake self-catering properties is a problem. The platforms have to deal with it. And if we all got together now and used image creations and description tools, we could do it probably in about 20 minutes and get something at least going through pending authorization. Fake people, deep fake videos, fake customers, fake guidebooks, which are selling like hotcakes, by the way. Fake books on Amazon are a massive industry, mostly novels and other things and fake biographies, but fake guidebooks are there, and they're massive. So how do we deal with this? Because people are getting poor information from fake sources. Well, I find this a curious thing, which is like there's an AI reputation management tool, there's many of them, that will automatically generate AI responses to every review that you get. And I always think that's good, it's useful, you've got to manage your reputation. But essentially, we could be in that position where AI-generated fake reviews are being responded to by AI response tools. And so what's the point? Is that real? Is that genuine? There are some tools now that are trying to respond to this, like FIFO, where you have to have verified purchases. But there's more problems as well about authenticity. You may have seen a few months ago this problem of sycophancy, so people-pleasing, which is like, oh, you're so great, well done, that's a great prompt, thank you so much, all that sort of stuff. Makes it very untrustworthy. If you're always liked, then it's not, it's not a trustworthy interaction. So this is probably my favorite slide in the whole pack, just because John Legend has tried to come up with a solution to this problem called It's Good. And he did write Ordinary People, and his idea is kind of like the complete opposite of that, which is it's a tool where celebrities can review restaurants, and then you can see where they went. So it's not really for the ordinary people, it's kind of for the extraordinary. But it's not yet kind of released, it's not a tool that's doing very well. This one is doing very well, which is Belly, B-E-L-I. It's in Edinburgh, it's in a few other places, and it's not AI. Because they can't trust it. So they can't trust the reviews. So it's your friends and your friends of friends of the networks you're in reviewing and rating restaurants and places to go as social proof. So there's almost like a bit of a response to some of the AI tools that are out there. So essentially what I'm trying to say here is this is some work from Shannon Valler, an academic at the Edinburgh Futures Institute, that AI is kind of like a mirror, right? All these problems come about because AI is not intelligent as such. What it is, it's a mirror to the data that we put into it as humans. It just basically reflects what's on the internet. And as we know, the internet is not always the most accurate or level-headed or unbiased, right? So, the reflections in AI kind of can be confused, they can potentially be distorted, they only reflect the data that's there, not the stuff that isn't, which means there's whole swathes of cultural information that just isn't in these systems. I was reading a great article the other day about there's some customs in Persian culture that if you start to try and play around in AI, it'll just completely miss. And it's not just Persian culture, it's every culture that isn't mainly sort of a Western hegemony. So, these are the problems with AI. It's a mirror, and that's why it feels inauthentic, because it is inauthentic. So, where is AI really, really useful? I think it is useful in all those domains. So can I just ask anyone around here, what is the worst bit about travel? What is the most laborious, unpleasant part of tourism? Has anyone got a suggestion? And again, I will make it awkward and just look at you in 5 seconds until someone... There you are, at the back, thank you. Flying. You just don't like flying. All right, I quite like flying. Didn't have a response to that, I should have prepared. Okay, another? Queuing. Okay, so queuing, right? You're in a queue, it takes... Flying, I can't really solve that, unfortunately, apart from maybe if we create an immersive experience, you don't have to fly. But queuing, I think, is something. So you've got, contactless check-in, all these sorts of things, which is the back-office processes that make travel quite annoying. All the things forms you have to fill, all the ways if you've had a delay, how you get rerouted. That's the problem of travel and tourism. And I'm going to quickly check my time. I'm a little bit behind, but I'm going to go faster now. This is where I go super fast. This is how I often see the back office of like a hotel or a restaurant or a tour operator, maybe an airport, not Edinburgh, of course, it's fantastic, but it feels like this. It feels messy, it's complicated, because they're complicated businesses, often run by people who are in it because of the personal interaction in tourism. And I'm really excited about how process automation works with AI, where you've got multiple systems and a process that's set out. This is just a financial one. Definitely don't look at the detail here. And how AI can potentially speed up every component of that. So that if you're in a hotel, then it's much shorter in terms of actually delivering that process. And there's loads of companies that are starting to do it. I'm going to show some Scottish companies. Legal casework is so much faster to do. In-house companies are now using AI to do the first draft of that contract. Really exciting developments if you're a small business where you might not know your own data. Shopify and Square and a range of others mean that if you don't know how many bookings you've got that night or how much money you made yesterday, you can basically speak to your AI. It will tell you you had 20 bookings and you made this much revenue. And that's a really great way to interact with your business, right? If you're a small business owner, that's a super exciting development. Canada took it a couple of steps forward. They used all of their tourism data, made loads of segments and personas, turned them into people, and you could chat to the people about it. So that's a good way of interacting with the data and the marketing. This is a tool for speeding up visa applications, or any sort of paperwork. So the promise of AI potentially is every little bit of paperwork you have to do for travel, you could do it in fractions of a second. Potentially quicker customer service as well. I was chatting to a luxury hotel group who use AI, but not to replace customer service. They just get the answer much more quickly back to the customer service representative so that they can respond. And it actually reduced the amount of time from 45 minutes, which seems crazily long, to about 8 minutes. But that is saving people a lot of time. So AI is speeding up some of the bad stuff and also those complex customer service inquiries. Alaska Airlines and loads of others have created systems so that if there has been a delay, first of all, they can predict whether a delay is going to happen using AI tools. But if it has been a delay, they'll use AI to quickly reroute you and provide you with a discounted food thing for the airport and all this sort of stuff. So these are the things that I think are the most useful. So even if you hate flying, the waiting might get a bit better. So what about the workforce? This is the big fear. And I only have 2 minutes left, so I'm going to speed through this last bit. Now, the big fear is about job replacement. And we are seeing fewer photographers already. We are starting to see fewer junior software developers because these jobs are starting to potentially be automated. We're seeing, even in football grounds, this is Brighton, where you can just go grab your drink, you can walk out, and it pays automatically using computer recognition. But what about tourism? Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think it will reduce? Well, when you look at radiology, they haven't reduced the number of radiologists, despite AI being around for a lot longer. And that's because the job is so human. If you're doing a scan, you then need to speak to the patient, you need to go back to the patient, you need to describe it, you need to double check it. And in tourism, it's such a personal, human world that we're in that I'm less certain that we'll have a big job reduction. In fact, we have a lot of vacancies in the industry. How can we use that process automation we talked about to actually reinvest in our workforce so that we can have more face-to-face interaction? And I'm going to sort of end on this bit, which is, I think, the final bit before we get the panel to reflect on some of these questions, which is accessibility, being open to all. So actually, has any of you been into the Edinburgh Futures Institute? Keep your hand up if you have. Now, you may have noticed above the door, does anyone know what's above the door at all? It says open to all. Rather unhelpfully in Latin, which kind of defeats the, but we'll move on, it's an ancient institution. First of all, it's open. If you haven't been yet, please come in, you're very welcome. But tourism should be open to all. And I think AI has some potential real gains here. My daughter is autistic with quite high support needs, and I'm already seeing some of the things in attractions and museums and already really useful for her. Giving her free video shows throughout before you get in, or audio descriptions, or written descriptions, all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a huge potential. We're hearing a lot about AI glasses, and if we kind of ignore the sort of scary side of the privacy aspects of this, you can see how this is useful for people who are blind or partially sighted as they're walking around, giving audio descriptions through the glasses. And Be My Eyes is a really interesting example of that. We're seeing that 90% of the people in workforce, this is from a government survey, who are neurodivergent found it useful in comparison to 72% who weren't neurodivergent. And that's partially because they've got different modes of understanding the information, but also because, for this reason, which it basically gives people more confidence in the work that they produce, if you're dyslexic or various things like that. It's really helping people with diverse needs get to grips with this. So I think this is a really exciting development, and actually an area where AI and tourism really go hand in hand to make us more accessible. Now, I'm not going to talk about this, but because of time, so I'm just going to flick through. Just pretend you're not seeing any of this. It's really exciting and interesting. But this is the most important part. I want to thank you all for listening to me at this stage. And what we're going to try and do now is unpick some of these with some of your questions and hopefully some very insightful and potentially controversial thoughts as well. So I'm going to welcome onto the stage Jane, Nick, Jessica, and Callum. So give them a round of applause. And the first question is going to be going back to itineraries. And as you answer this question, I'd like you to introduce yourself and maybe give your thoughts on AI itineraries and whether you've used it as well. So the first statement is, I would trust an AI itinerary created entirely by AI. And I'm going to start with you, Nick, if that's all right.
Sure. Hi, I'm Nick Finnegan. As Josh had said earlier, I was formerly executive manager of Edinburgh Castle. I don't think I need to say much more than that. Well, I think straightforward, I think like the rest of us, is no. I wouldn't entirely do it. It's just part of the package, part of that tool. It gives you added advantage that you didn't have before. I mean, what people do enjoy wandering around on a holiday is wandering down roads and streets that they might not have normally planned to do. But equally speaking, you don't want to waste hours and hours going in the wrong place. So it's striking that balance between giving yourself a bit of a steer, which is, I think, when our colleagues said in the front, you want to do preparation in advance so that you're making the best, you're maximising the time that you've got on your holiday, but leaving a bit of spontaneity in it. And I think that's probably, well, I'd like to think that's going to continue to be the case all the time.
Have you used it on your holiday?
Yes, I have, but not one that goes on day one at 12 noon, I'm going to be here, or at 3 o'clock, I'm going to be here. You'd normally have, well, it's a bit that I used to feel when people were coming to Edinburgh Castle. You know, the Edinburgh Castle is a proposition for people to come to Edinburgh in the first place. But we hopefully, at that stage, was using it as a springboard for people to go around and explore the rest of Edinburgh. So they would come to Edinburgh Castle in the morning, and then they would maybe go to the National Museum of Scotland in the afternoon, or go to Holyrood Palace. So we were a conduit to that, and I think, I don't want to go into one of the later questions right away about small businesses. I think it's using your big attractions as a draw, as an overall attraction to come to the city in the first place, and then everybody else is going to benefit from the big beast places being able to attract people in the first place.
And the castle is definitely an AI beast. It comes up on all the lists. Callum.
Yeah, I'm Callum. I'm the founder of an AI business called Oblo. We work with travel companies using agentic AI to create destination content. So that is itineraries, travel guides, interactive maps, and all of that kind of content throughout their journey, from an SEO website stage through to email marketing, in-trip recommendations, and so on. We work with a wide variety of travel companies. We work with destination marketing organizations like the West Highlands, which everyone will know, but obviously a beautiful but remote part of the country. And we work with the W in Times Square in New York. So like a real variety of different types of destinations. I wouldn't probably trust an itinerary created by a human either. I think, you know, these things are probably a good mix. And I think we don't, as an AI business working with travel companies, we don't give people, like travelers, recommendations using AI. We use AI to help research destinations. We use AI to help write content, to help source images, to help personalize that content. And as far as the traveler is concerned, it doesn't necessarily have to be an AI tool, but AI was used in the process of creating it. And we make that clear as well. But I think my answer to this is generally a combination, really. Yeah, AI, people, I'll probably look at Google Maps. I'll probably ask some people. I think, come to it with a balanced approach, probably.
Yeah. Jessica.
I'm Jessica Mullen. I am Chief Innovation and Design Officer at Create Future, and we are a digital consultancy head office here in Edinburgh. But we've got a team. What's a bit noisy, isn't it? We've got a team across the UK, and we have our team work on AI. So we help our clients to build their capability and using AI mainly on the engineering side. We build AI-powered tools and applications, but we're also transforming our own business because consulting is very much under threat by AI. I've seen in the news this week, Accenture letting go of 11,000 people. So yes, it's an interesting time. Would I trust an itinerary entirely created by AI? Not yet. I think that's my answer. I'll give you a couple of real examples. The first is I'm booking a trip to Vietnam next February, and I've done my research. I've gone in, looked in, but when it's come to the final part, one of my friends luckily has a travel agency, Rock My World Travel. Mark is here somewhere, and when it's got to the point where actually I need to book this trip, it's complex, multi-destination. I'm going on my own. Like, I need you to book this for me, and just have that reassurance. I could have done it myself, but chose not to. Another live example was I was in Portugal last summer. I go there very often. I know it really well. I was trying to find somewhere that sold sourdough, and with like ChatGPT trying to research places. And I was like, it came up with a couple. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll find them. And then it said, oh yeah, there's this bakery in this little village that's nearby. I'm thinking, I know that village. There's literally nothing there. So I'm Googling it, like, where is this? Is this something I've not heard of? So I went back to the AI and I was like, is this, like, I can't find it. I'm like having this conversation. And he went, oh no, it doesn't exist. I was like, so why did you tell me it was there? And it said, oh, because I thought it was something you would like. So hence, I do not trust it entirely with AI.
Yeah, it might serve you right for just going for sourdough in the middle of fantastic Lisbon eateries. I think I had like 400.
We were in the middle of nowhere, to be fair, but yes, I know.
Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm a professor in Festival and Event Management at Edinburgh University. And I'm in the Department of Tourism and Intercultural Business Communication. So I will say that I was probably a late adopter of AI. I was initially very, very skeptical. And actually it was going to one of your seminars that I started to think differently about it. But
that's good.
Yeah, but I had to familiarise myself very quickly with it because of its prevalence in higher education. So it's a challenge we face every day about how to promote its ethical and responsible use by students. And then I didn't actually realise how much AI impacted on me every day. But then today, in between all the many tasks I was doing, so I need one of those AI personal assistant people, I was thinking about AI. And then just today, I opened one of my emails and there was an article there about how AI could increase productivity in touring. So touring productions, because obviously I'm linked to festivals. So I thought that's quite interesting. Then I got another email that said, would you like to be a guest editor on a special edition looking at AI-powered recommendation systems for personalised experiences in music and cultural festivals? So first of all, I was like, well, what does that mean? But when I looked at it, I thought, that's actually really interesting. So I said, yes, I'm actually quite interested in AI now. So that was the second thing. And then the third thing was, I was a keynote speaker at the World Leisure Conference, which I'd never spoken at before, in Breda in the Netherlands. And I got an email from them today with a newsletter from the conference and stuff. And in there was the lead article was AI in Travel 2025, how AI is revolutionizing the tourism industry. So this was literally within an hour of me trying to think about AI. So I thought, well, and then the final thing I did was I took the title of this talk, this EICC live event tonight, and I put it into Google Scholar. to search on if any research had been done and how many, see if anyone in the audience can guess, how many articles do you think have been written since 2025, so just this year, related to the title of this event? So this is academic research. Have a guess, Josh.
I've got a guess.
Yeah.
I reckon 70?
No, 14,700.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's just in 2025.
I'd love to see how many of them used AI in
Yeah,
writing.
exactly. So anyway, so then I suddenly realised, oh my God, AI is dominating everything I'm doing without me even realising it. But going back to the question, which is, would I trust an itinerary? No, probably not. And an example is, at the moment, I'm planning a trip to Egypt at Christmas with my two daughters. I tend to take them away every Christmas. They're 21 and 25, so they're adults and they probably use AI a lot more than I do. But I did actually use ChatGPT to source and compare airlines, how could I get to Egypt, to plan some routes and activities, to look at safety. You know, is Egypt a safe destination? You know, where we're going to is, you know, very close to Israel. Organising schedules. So I did all that back of house planning, but I am a traditionalist. So the minute I stopped doing that, I went on to another search engine and I bought this. So
it's not fake, is it? No,
no, it's a real book. So The Lonely Planet for Egypt. And so I think there's a balance. So I think it's really good at some things, but I love guidebooks. This is something I can put on my shelf, I can look at, and I can go, oh, I remember when I went to Egypt. I'm not going to go back on my ChatGPT discussions. All site websites and also word of mouth. I think word of mouth is really powerful in terms of those secret hidden gems. You know, who's been to Egypt? Where did you go? What did you like? So I think there is a place for it, but I wouldn't trust it entirely.
I think some very good comments. One thing is you definitely speak to Callum as you go for that that music side. Now, what about yourselves? So can I get a hand up if you would trust an itinerary? I think we know where the answer is going to be, but anyone who is happy to hand themselves over straight to AI? Not yet, but we'll see. Maybe if we do this again in the future. So we go on to the second statement. AI will make tourism and hospitality more authentic. When I look at this statement, it feels quite easy to answer, but it'd be worth getting into. Nick, do you mind starting us off again?
Yeah, I mean, a lot's to do with the interpretation of the word authentic, but it was interesting when I took over the post of the Edinburgh Castle, I took a personal decision to review, read and answer every single complaint or compliment that we got written into Edinburgh Castle. And what was interesting is, in all the years I worked there, I never received one letter whatsoever that said, I went to Edinburgh Castle last week, wow, what an amazing place it is, the turrets, the grandeur, whatever. Not one in all these years. Every single letter was about the staff. Every single letter was about the service and the experience that people had. Interestingly, quite from a lot of people with disabilities. Because at the beginning, your expectation looking up from Princes Street or the Hill is, what percentage of this experience can I end up enjoying? And with all the work being done in advance, the answer is almost all of it. So they will write back and say, I was made so welcome, and and that is what makes people's memories to me about an experience, about going on a holiday. Is a phrase which I've stolen from somebody else, but it's staff, not stuff. And that should really be at the forefront of it. And there'll be later questions coming up. That is what will make tourism the firmament of a lot of the offer that we have in this country, because we have a tradition of a good welcome. And we need to make sure that that continues just to be an avenue. You know, just one avenue, not something that will be the A to Z. It might be something that's the A to E. And as soon as people get here, we collectively need to make sure that every single element of that experience is of the highest quality, because we are in competition with everybody else.
So potentially, yes, because what you're saying is if it's a way of freeing up staff to do that. I thought you were going to say was that reviews, the fact you read the reviews meant that you could learn from them and
Yeah.
you could enhance it. Whereas if you're just constantly pinging stuff back and forth, it
Well,
might be
the
useful.
thing that we all work in businesses. If you don't listen to the customer and the client, you're
Yeah.
finished, haven't you? But I think equally speaking, you need to try and be a step ahead. I think you need to be a step ahead of them. What you think their aspiration may be going forward, and when you're reviewing whether it's a visitor attraction or a restaurant, is trying to either be ahead of it, be innovative, rather than being reactive all the time.
So Callum, you're kind of like on the front line of some of this stuff. You know, you're thinking about how do you build stuff that feels authentic to visitors or whatever. How do you address it? What do you think?
Well, I completely agree with all that, and I think there's two sides to it. There's using AI to create efficiencies and to empower people and allow people to go and spend more time doing things that only people can do. So when we think about the W, which is a client of ours, Marriott introduced a brand standard for the W, which was they had to keep all their local content for their website and their sort of local recommendations up to date. They had to do that on a quarterly basis, and they didn't want to spend a lot of time in a room on laptops doing that. So they work with us. We do that using AI. We help them, and then they spend more time doing traditional concierge type jobs and out there speaking to people. So I think in that sense, I think AI should be an empowerer, an enabler, should help people to go and be on the front lines themselves. But the other side is books, travel books, things like that will be AI generated. It would be very unprofitable probably not to be. Whether it is now, I don't know, but certainly within the next year, these books that get published will have AI will have been used in some degree to write some elements of it, to do some of the research, to do certain bits of it. And I think that'll just get more and more and more extreme. And probably, you know, unpopular opinion, it ends up becoming very unauthentic. But we think maybe 100 years from now, it's going to be a lot of VR and not traveling possibly and not really having proper experiences. But I think we're a long way from that.
Yeah, with our scorched earth and inability to survive.
Probably.
Two very quick follow-ups though. One is, I know that you have systems within your platform that make things local and more authentic. And that, I mean, could you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, I mean, so Oblo is my company's name, means obviously local. And we are the agents that we use that research destinations prioritize local businesses and have a sort of sentiment analysis to prefer local businesses. There's a literal configuration that we could turn that off. And in some markets, particularly in the US, chains and things might be more important because it's what's available. But yeah, we try and prioritize local businesses. Usually that's what people want as well. So we're doing it not only because we think it's right, but it's because what people are looking for. Everyone wants hidden gems. Everyone wants sort of local favorites and things that local people like doing as well. But yeah, it's a configuration. It's about doing that where possible, really.
Thanks so much. I'm going to go to you, Jessica, now. And obviously you've got huge strategy, design, consultant expertise. And so you have to think about humans a lot. So what's your thoughts on this statement?
Yeah, I think back to the point about how are we defining authentic, I think often it gets conflated with personalization. And obviously personalization is, huge in experience design, and AI enables that to happen in a way that just wasn't possible before. I think at the moment, if you look at, just on the personalization track, look at like even the airlines, they're just not, I'm really surprised, right? And we work with some of them, just what's possible, even like really basically isn't happening. So if I was to go on to, let's say, Jet2's app, right, it should know about me. It should know what I've already booked. It should know that do I have children, do I not have children, because I'm booking flights. It should know, they'll be tracking me, right? So they'll know how much research I've been doing. They'll know where else I've been going. There is nothing about that experience that is personalized or feels authentic to me. So I hope that actually it will end up making a lot of it feel more authentic to me, more personalized, because it will know me better. But I think in order to do that, we then need to make the effort to know people. One of my first proper jobs was, in hospitality. So I worked in restaurants, I ran a restaurant, and hospitality is all about really knowing your customer. It's about, you know, coming in, you recognize them, you know, like where they like to sit, you know what they like to have as their aperitif. You know, really that deep understanding of that individual and being able to deliver that as a personal experience is easy to do in person. The technology is there for us to do that at scale if companies embrace it and use it for good, not for bad.
The evil. What type of restaurant did you run?
So I ran, it was actually a conference centre down in the Borders.
Oh, right.
So I did, I mean, I was really young, and we were doing weddings for like 200 people.
Oh, wow.
I always say that's like one of the most important experiences I've had in my career.
Yeah.
In terms of skills I use today.
Just going back to positive hospitality, I just always think that. I think everyone who's worked in hospitality always has a story coming back to it. And it's all of those people moments and the learning, often from some quite intensely negative experiences too.
I mean, yeah. Balance, but valuable, super valuable.
Yeah.
For sure.
Jane, what do you think?
Well, I probably disagree. Actually, it leads on very nicely with what you were just saying was what I was going to talk about. So I was going to talk about experiences and I suppose with my academic head on. So, I mean, we talk about authentic experiences being ones that are co-created often. So they're co-created, you being at the destination, you're part of what's happening. So it's a very human thing. And I think that's really important about authenticity. Also, personalization as well as part of that. And then if you think about someone like Pine and Gilmore, who talk about that whole experience economy literature, they say there's 4 things, you know, in experiences that make them authentic and meaningful and memorable. And I suppose entertainment's one. So yeah, you can use AI in creating entertainment. It has a huge value there. Education, obviously I've talked about how we're encouraging our students now to use AI. But then the last 2, I think it's more difficult. So the aesthetic, I don't feel that I've not, and then this might be like my lack of knowledge of AI, but I've never really found that aesthetic through AI. Again, I think that's something that's really personal and it's a feeling and it's really intangible. And escapism is the last one. So I feel that, yeah, for us to get that authenticity, we're still quite not there in terms of AI. And also, I think authenticity is all about that active participation. And I think AI is still quite passive, you know, in terms of the experience. So, and then also that interaction with the local community and the local place. Like, I think that is what makes a lot of tourism experiences really authentic, is actually being there, it's speaking to the local people, it's wandering around the city. And again, it's really difficult to create that same experience. And you might be able to in 10 years' time, but at the moment, I don't really think. And I think, you know, what you were talking about earlier, Josh, is what we're seeing is that experiences aren't becoming authentic, they're becoming more and more homogenized. And a lot of that homogenization has come through the use of technology as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there was a great article about like the physical design of places, and you mentioned like going to Portugal. I remember going to Portugal last year, and I was walking down the street looking for a brunch, looking for some sourdough, quite literally. And I was walking down, I was like, everywhere is really busy with people who look quite similar to me in places that look exactly like all the places I see in Edinburgh, and yet I still want to go in. And I was thinking, oh, God damn it, millennials have ruined the world. But anyway, just interesting on that aesthetic part, I think there's nothing that is more reassuring to me than seeing non-creative people making AI images. Because I think, like, well, everyone could be creative, to be fair, but I think if you see, I think it can be art in the hands of someone who is creative or is artistic. But often the aesthetics are wrong, and you can just tell. But in the hands of someone with a delicate touch, it can be quite different.
I mean, maybe the word there is more, you know. I mean, maybe AI can make tourism hospitality authentic, but I don't think you can necessarily make it more authentic. Yeah.
Jessica?
Yeah, your point there about the experiences that, you know, AI could not help you predict. I was in Mexico for over the Christmas holidays just there, and probably one of my highlights was we were walking back to our hotel, and we happened upon this square, and there was a local, like, older people dancing and couples, like doing, and this, we stopped to watch, and one of this women made a beeline for my husband, and was basically like, can I have him, you know, and whisked him off, and they did all this like salsa moves and stuff, and it was just, it was wonderful, and there's no way AI would have helped us to, known that existed, planned for it, or made it happen.
And even if it did, it wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the
surprise
same.
is a key part of it.
No, yeah.
Now, this is a very usefully annoyingly vague sort of way, because you can interpret authenticity. But what about the audience? Does anyone want to say that AI will make tourism hospitality more authentic? Can you please put up your hand? It can't be 100%. It's 99%. So the rest of you think it makes it more inauthentic. And I guess, again, it's all about how you do it. But that's question 2. Let's go on to question 3. AI will ultimately help the tourism and hospitality workforce. Now, I'm going to try and do this one fairly quickly, because I think the next question is even more interesting. So, Nick, what do you think?
I think the answer is it can do. You know, service at the vital centre of what we do, particularly in tourism. I'm working at the moment with Contini's, the prestigious hospitality and restaurateurs, and they are already using a whole range of artificial intelligence through some of the more obvious things as marketing, but also in much more detailed basis of what they're doing. So I think that, in my opinion, is not going to reduce in any way the workforce. I think it's going to provide more space for them to be able to provide better offer or a better product, and possibly free up certain time they can do in training and induction and various other things. And that is some of the areas we've been speaking about, because we're already started having discussions already I've had with Karina Contini about how we can use AI better.
I had my best Christmas dinner at Contini's. So it's very
well,
good.
Since this is being broadcast on YouTube, you know, hopefully I can receive some extra bonus for the use of mentioning the word Contini.
And if you cut me in, I'll say it even more times. Callum.
Yeah, I think I already gave an example of this, but I think AI, and in particular agentic AI, should just take what would otherwise be a room full of people or an army of people and try and automate the steps that those people are taking. So yeah, it should help them in that sense. I imagine in many industries, including hospitality, other work will be found for these people not always in a good way, as in if your 8-hour day gets shortened to an hour day, you don't get 7 hours off. So I think, yeah, we'll need to rebalance that. There'll be positives and negatives from it, but it will help them.
I think just picking up the point that you made earlier, Josh, about recruitment, it's a real challenge at the moment in the hospitality industry, getting the remit and people come in. So that is something where AI tools could actually assist in terms of that whole area of it.
Great Scottish AI company called Willow that does recruitment as well, so check that out.
I think just to add what everyone's saying, yeah, I think if it enables people to add more value, do more high value tasks, and I think it is good. But yeah, if you're not going to allow them to use that time for higher value tasks, then it kind of defeats the purpose. We often have a debate at work about, you know, AI is that's the holy grail, right? We all get to work on things that are more interesting and more creative. But actually, sometimes you think, well, actually, I'm outsourcing a lot of that. You know, I've got to write a piece of marketing content. I'll just get AI to do that. So we end up being prompt jockeys. And where's the kind of intellectual challenge in that? But yes, that's my long way of saying.
It's a strong yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with a lot of what's been said, and I think that I've got 2 pieces of research I looked at which are conflicting, so that was quite interesting. And I think it is a really sort of conflicted area. I mean, obviously, yeah, if we remove mundane, repetitive tasks that, you know, people then can do more creative things, you know, realistically, does that happen? You know, does it give us more time to focus on the customer experience, or we just give them more mundane tasks to do instead? So, but anyway, the research that I looked at was quite interesting. So one was from the Open University, and this was saying, this is, you're probably aware of this, it was a report called Bridging the Digital Divide, and this said that employees in Scotland expect a fifth of job roles to alter significantly or become redundant as a result of new technology, such as AI. And that more than half of UK organisations also report that new developments are coming too quickly for them to keep up with the skills required and making it difficult to plan. Whereas the other report said, this was from PwC, they said that digital innovations and smart devices such as robots, drones, etc., will lead to the creation of 558,000 jobs and the loss of 544,000 jobs. I don't know how they worked out all those figures. By 2037, meaning that we'll have a net gain of jobs. So I think it's, yeah, I think it's really controversial, and obviously, again, it goes back to balance in terms of how we use AI with the workforce.
Yeah, I always think like we have agency in this, right? And I think if we've got like, I always, when I think about Scottish tourism, like we want to provide the best welcome, and if we do start making big savings, it's about what is our intention. Do we want to just keep on putting on that bottom line, or do we want to keep on investing in that customer service? And how do we, look, I think that it'd be good to get rid of some of those vacancies, and maybe you can automate a couple of vacancies away. But I do think I think hospitality, if we intentionally design it in the way that we want it, could potentially be a boon. That's my personal view. Funnily enough, I set up a program back in 2018 about AI job replacement when I was at the data lab, and we were like, everyone who potentially get AI'd out, we're going to train them up in software development. And then first thing we've seen, loads of junior software development jobs go because of AI coding. So who knows, right? It's difficult to predict the future. But that's what we're going to ask you to do, because you're all going to vote. Will AI ultimately help the tourism and hospitality workforce? If you think it will help and it'll make it better, please put up your hand. Oh, it's a positive audience. That's good to see. If you don't think it will, it's all right. You can be brave. Yeah, I think, you know, we don't know, right? And I think I'm hopefully optimistic. Now, this topic might get everyone going, which is AI will make tourism in Edinburgh more sustainable. And when I mean sustainable, I mean it in at least two ways. One, environmentally sustainable. And the second, which I think we should probably focus on, is economic and dealing with the challenges of visitor management, where we have lots of visitors coming in and being sustained as a destination. Now, Nick, I'm going to go to someone else first, because I'm keen to get everyone's opinion first. Jessica, do you mind starting us off on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a technical perspective, it absolutely should be able to do that. You know, when you think about you know, overcrowding, if you think about reducing flows, even, you know, think about the recommendations that platforms are, you know, if everyone's recommending the same destinations within the city at the same times, actually you could think about, well, you know, could it allow that to be spread out a little bit more, you know, like rebalancing where the visitor numbers are. So I think there's so much possibility for sure. But again, somebody has to decide that that's what they want to do with the tools, right? Somebody has to want to solve those problems. And there needs to be the investment in order to do that. You know, AI, building these products it's expensive, you know, both from finding the talent to build these products and having the technology to solve some of these problems using AI. I mean, we've been trying to recruit LLM engineers. They are like hen's teeth. Yeah. Even the energy usage of all of these things. So yeah, I think somebody needs to be willing to solve the problem. They need to have the funding to solve the problem. And then there's a whole regulation. I'll let somebody else. But yeah, there has to be the political appetite to solve the problem as well.
Nick, what do you think?
You could have a whole session on this one question alone, Josh. You know, I'm from the school that you know, you referenced your feeling about Edinburgh when you came into it. I've always loved Edinburgh. I've spent almost my whole life here, and when I got the job at Edinburgh Castle, I became a more extreme ambassador of the city. And at the very centre of that, to be perfectly frank, I want to share that. You know, I actually want everybody from all over the world to come and see what I have had the privilege and honour of being around. And I think there's quite a significant element of people in Edinburgh that don't want to share it. They don't want people to come. The most disappointing, if somebody said to me, what is your COVID story that you remember? And it was a tweet from Alexander McCall Smith. And he had a picture of the high street during COVID, and it didn't have a soul in the street. And he said it was the greatest thing he'd seen. And I thought that was a disgrace. Apart from the employment issues, all of the issues surrounding that, there was a real NIMBY feeling going on. And, you know, I rail against all of that. I accept the fact that, you know, I was part of the Edinburgh ETAG, the Edinburgh Tourism Action Group. Now, their strategy has taken account a lot of things, from moving from growth all the time to sustainability, and the whole issue of managing numbers, because that's incredibly important. But I always believe the numbers can be managed. They could be managed with a little bit of planning. But I mean, to me, we've got the biggest arts festival in the whole world that literally every country or city would have. And we spend a lot of time trying to denude it and try to take it down. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I think it can be. You said from a technical point of view, it must, in my opinion. So probably the will can, but we've just got this wonderful product here. Wouldn't it be terrible if we didn't share it as much as we can?
Oh, I hear, certainly from me. Jane?
So, will it make tourism in Edinburgh more sustainable? I sort of disagree, to be honest. I don't think AI is necessarily sustainable, because obviously, if we're thinking it from an environmental point of view, you know, it's huge power demands, it's very resource intensive than other sort of search engine systems. So I think it's got a high carbon footprint. So, you know, I think there's lots of challenges around it from that perspective. However, people can use it to research how to be more sustainable as a tourist, so they can do that. They can look about what sustainable practices they can adopt when they're in a destination, but ultimately they've got to implement that. So AI can tell you how to do it, but you've got to implement it. So it can help with things like what you were just talking about, like capacity management, crowd management, navigation through the city. I was thinking about the project we did years ago in COVID. We didn't use AI in that project, did we? I don't think so.
They did actually, They basically, well, do you want to explain it? Yeah.
So yeah, we did a project during COVID looking at, I suppose, the hotspots throughout the city and how we could use that data in terms of working with the festivals and tourism coming out of COVID. But I was thinking, AI would have been really useful, using more AI during that project. So I think there are lots of places where it is really useful, but I think, again, sustainability, particularly from an environment point of view, it's often a personal choice. And AI isn't going to make you make that personal choice. I think economic sustainability, there's a real place for it there in terms of making us understand more in terms of financial management and financial demands. I think there's a huge place there. And then I suppose the other sustainability is social. And I really don't know enough about AI to talk about in terms of how you would use it in terms of improving social sustainability. Maybe that's something other people might know on the panel. Yeah.
Well, Callum, I'm going to bring you in, and I think just sort of reflect on all your answers before I ask you a question, which is probably a bit unfair because I haven't prepped you. But what I always think with some of the complaints or issues with tourism in Edinburgh, I'm not saying that they're not justified, and I think in some occasions they are, right? If a place is, and I know that if you have to walk on the road because it's just got so busy in a particular space, but I always think the very specific geographic and time-bounded problems of busyness and just spread and that type of thing. And often when I mentioned AI as a mirror, it reflects all the top 10 things to do in Edinburgh if you ask it quite brutally, and how do you think, as someone who, you're building technology to help people explore and engage and love a place, and how do you think about this challenge of solving these more specific hotspot problems, which on times can cause issues within a community or so on?
Well, I think we can get rid of top 10 lists, probably. So I think personalization, I think the way we approach it is we learn a lot about destinations, and then we learn a lot about people when that content's displayed, and then we try and match the two together. So Edinburgh will appear in a lot of top 10 places to visit, top 10 places to live, and so on. And then within Edinburgh, people coming here will see the top 10 things to do, Edinburgh Castle, and so on. And actually, maybe not everyone needs to come to Edinburgh or live in Edinburgh. Maybe not everyone that comes here needs to go to the castle. So I think being able to, I would hope they do.
At the same time.
But it's more what is right for each individual person. So instead of having a generic top 10 list of here's the top 10 obvious things that are mentioned everywhere by everyone, we actually show each individual person the things most relevant to them. So if I lived here, what would I enjoy doing, and can I go and do that? So it might spread people around in that way. And then because we know a destination well, like Edinburgh, we know other destinations well, and we know what they have in common, and maybe we could show those other destinations to those people as well. So we can maybe spread people around and show them things they wouldn't have otherwise discovered.
Yeah, I think there's so much more to show off in Edinburgh. I think about our coastline for so long has been woefully perhaps underutilised, but now we're seeing Newhaven and even dipping into my territory in Granton, becoming a little bit more busier, and I think that's really exciting. And even places like Stockbridge, which is an obvious place to visit now, is still not as
top 10 high streets in the UK.
Yeah. I live near Stockbridge. It gets pretty busy, honestly.
It does now. Lanham Bakery.
Bakery. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But there's still so much more in terms of that. I always think we work with a lot of destinations, and those local bits of advice probably don't flow into the AI systems as clearly yet.
I think what's important as well, we're working with colleagues. East Lothian is burgeoning as a place which is, only a 25-minute drive, 40 minutes on a bus. That whole coastline, apart from the golfing, the city and the rest of it is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where I think AI could really help in terms of sustainability is transport, within the city. Because I was just thinking about when you're talking about North Berwick, I went to Fringe by the Sea, which I'd never been to before, which is brilliant, really fantastic. Had a great evening, saw some amazing bands that you wouldn't expect to see in North Berwick by the sea, and then tried to get home. And the train was cancelled. One time I went, the next time the bus was cancelled, but there was no integration about, the bus is cancelled, let's put on more trains, or let's get something here. So the whole transport system is so fragmented. So surely AI can help there.
Yeah, I guess that goes back to that plane example where, they have to be really sophisticated because it's all in one space. But if you could do cross-organizational automation of some sort, it's difficult because, it's difficult just throwing another train. They're pretty big, but and we're not in the right place. But no, I think that's a super exciting potential vision for it. Yeah. Should we try and do a couple of rapid-fire questions as we finish off? Yeah. I probably should have brought people in on this topic, but it could get a bit heated. But anyone got any burning thought they want to share just before we move on? Yes.
Sorry, it's just to complete what Madame just said. I used to work for a charity a long time ago called Transport Scotland.
Yep.
And we used to campaign for a sustainability report on the tourist. And I think that a big report has been done 2 years ago regarding this subject. And I think that, sorry. Thank you. I used to work for a Transform Scotland, and it's a charity linked to all the transport sustainability in Edinburgh and Scotland in general. And a research has been done for helping tourists to use sustainability on the transport himself. And I think that is good to look at this piece of work have been done 2 years ago, because I think that if someone wanted to build and use helping on promoting Scotland in this area, I think it's a really good work have been done for that.
Have to check out that report.
Transform Scotland. I'm not part of it. I used to wrote some pieces.
Yes, yeah.
Doing something totally different on it.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. And
Thank you.
know the author, or partially the author. Any other comments just on this reflection in terms of Edinburgh and AI? If not, we'll do some rapid fires. Should we do that to finish? We've got like 4 minutes. So, yeah, a nice easy one. AI will help small businesses. Jessica, do you mind starting us off again?
Maybe.
Yeah.
My worry is that small businesses will get left behind because they don't have the resources. The bigger organizations have got more money, so even just take marketing, like SEO, whatever. You know, the bigger, with the top 10 lists will get flooded, and small businesses will struggle to be visible. However, I do think AI, in terms of internal processing for small businesses, is a total game changer. So the ability to compete, to have, I think that, yes. So internally, yes. Externally,
it's a hard game running a small business. Might just make their lifestyle a little bit better, maybe. Jane?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you've said. I mean, I think there are still barriers to small businesses in terms of participation, whether that's how to use the technology, having the time to use it, access to use it. So I think there's still lots of challenges, but I think a lot of the things you were showing on the screen earlier, like a lot of those AI tools would just be amazing for small businesses in terms of just saving them so much time and resource and money, I think. So I think I'll probably agree on that one. Yeah.
I think it's your first agree.
Finally,
Callum.
yeah.
Sadly, I think I would disagree. I think, it's a shame, but I think it probably widens the gap. I think everyone has access to the same tools like before, but the bigger companies are going to be in a stronger position to leverage them, and I think they're getting given better opportunities. We were talking about this earlier, but OpenAI have released a new, essentially an app store, and they've Expedia and Booking.com, TripAdvisor, The Fork, these are companies that they've gone to presumably over the last year or more to work with on developing this, and they have a massive head start. It doesn't change the playing field because they already have an advantage, but their advantage is probably getting bigger and bigger. So yeah, I think yet to see how we try and change that, but hopefully we can.
Nick, what about yourself?
I think out of all of the questions, this one's the most challenging, I think, for me. I think businesses that are small need to continue to be innovative. They need to find a gap or a niche in the market so that originality can come out, whether it's in search engines, whatever, backed up by great service. I also think, though, that bigger businesses need to do more to support that, because you need to have a holistic view. If you're looking at it as a city or a country, you need to look at the whole thing holistically. That whole foundation, small bed of small businesses is vital, but they do need help.
Can I ask a quick follow-up? What would you have started with in the castle if you could have used AI on something?
Oh gosh, that's
put right on the spot.
No. I probably think being able to more personalise tours where people were arriving. So if somebody was coming and they had a particular element or niche of history, or somebody was more interested in the view, or somebody was more interested less in the history but more in that, they could in advance go, here is a route that you have for here that will maximise your time in the castle. And also probably integrate that with the catering, the retail offer.
Beeline for the scones. It's every place. It's an aggressive addiction. It's horrible. I'm going to go to the final one because I actually think is a weird one, and I quite like it, right? So I was at a conference in the US, and someone said, is AI just going to make the world noisier? Because you can now speak into your phone, it can speak back to you. What do you think? Is it going to make it noisier? Callum, do you want to go first?
I think there's some amazing things being developed, like the live translation in headsets. So when you're speaking to someone in a different language, they can in real time have that translated to them. I think these kind of things are incredible, and probably open us up to having more conversations and that kind of thing. In general, I don't think AI needs to be answer and question. I think ChatGPT is you ask a question, you get an answer. I think that's the most obvious use case, but I don't think that's AI. And I don't think asking my phone a question is going to be how we interact with AI generally. I think the whole interface is probably going to change. I think headsets are a big part of that as well.
Jessica?
Yeah, so my thought on this is the thought of a future world where basically we all walk around a city with headsets on, glasses, earpods, and not talking to each other.
We might be there already, though.
Yeah, that I think that's really sad.
Yeah.
So I hope it does I hope it doesn't make it go quiet.
I mean, I think psychologically, like, it is noisier, like the world's noisier, we're all shouting over each other, there's protests, there's, you know, you're exposed to so much every day, so much noise, so I think it's really hard to sort of, for your own sanity, you know, there's so much about well-being and stuff, isn't there? And I think AI does contribute to that noise. It really does contribute to that noise. So it's like, how do you use it in a way that, you know, you still keep your well-being and you still have those moments of peace and clarity and everything, but use it in a positive way.
AI enabling wellness.
Yes.
Well, two sides. I think when you go around nowadays, you might prefer that some people wore headphones rather than people are having conversations in the bus. But I would like to think that people have done their research in advance and the rest of it, and then they come over and actually enjoy the place. Because let's be frank, when you're looking at whether it's a view out to the sea or a view from Edinburgh Castle or any top of Calton Hill, you do that, it's going to be much better if you're taking that all in yourself with all your senses than it is if somebody's telling you built in 1814 at the same time, and that's where people are going to do. And I do see a growth in what you read about people having a technology-free day or a toxic, you know, a detox of that. I think there will be a growth in that.
Yeah.
I think there is no doubt about that, because they assail, you're quite right, they assail in your senses.
Yeah,
you're going to have to really spend some time really just trying to find some peaceful space without that. And I do actually think, rather than the noise, a holiday and the break and the rest of it that comes with that, that's where it can be really effective.
AI enabling a break from AI is actually, I think, quite a lovely vision for the future of tourism. Two major thanks. First of EICC Live for hosting this. Second to this absolutely fantastic panel. It's been just a genuine pleasure. I learned from all of you at various parts of today, and hopefully we'll do in the future as well. So give them a huge round of applause. And finally, to yourselves, you've shared your evening with us. I hope you found it interesting, engaging. I'd love to follow in the conversation with anyone later on. That's all. This is my email if you want to get in touch. And just thank you for being interested. Thank you for being here, and have a lovely evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to echo that as well. So yeah, thank you very much for the panelists for giving up your evening, and for Josh to putting on such a wonderful talk. Obviously, like I say, echo what Josh said. Thank you to everyone for attending, because without you, we wouldn't be able to hold these events, and it's through your engagement that we do. And hopefully there should be a QR code. There we go. So there's the QR code there. If you could possibly scan that and just give us a bit of feedback, and hopefully we'll be able to tailor the events to the future. But thank you very much for joining us. Hope you have a good evening, and we shall see you soon. Bye for now.